Good evening and welcome to tonight's slightly early Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is Felcroft Casts. Hope you're doing very well this Friday evening. And this evening we've got a whole bunch of stuff to go through. It's going to be quite talky. There's actually going to be no gameplay in this one whatsoever, but that is because it is PAX 2013 over in the east coast of the USA today and over the weekend, and Blizzard have been there in spades, and we have a brand new announcement. As you can tell by the slate image here, Curse of Naxxramas has been announced. So a little while ago in some of the streams, the Hearthstone team had mentioned that there was going to be Adventure Mode in some interviews and some similar things. So that is a brand new game mode. It's going to be releasing this summer. And what we're going to do for you this evening is go through a little bit about the different announcements that have been made about it today, just this morning US time, maybe 3 or 4 hours ago, in terms of you folks who are in Europe, in terms of GMT or European time. So let's jump straight in. We're going to be talking a bit about what you can actually do in Curse of Naxxramas, a little bit about the new cards that it brings. We've got 5 new cards to go and have a look through, an example of a hero and some other bits and bobs as well. So Adventure Mode in Hearthstone is very much a single player sort of, if you're going to look at it in terms of World of Warcraft, a raiding type experience, a PvE, player versus entity. You're not going to be playing against other players here. You are going to be playing away in challenges against the AI and against the computer itself. So awesome looking artwork there, and let's jump straight on in. This is the first thing. There's going to be a brand new arena, and as you can see, that is the Naxxramas arena, complete with all of the skulls, eggs, and sort of generally mystic zones that you might remember from World of Warcraft. So you're going to get a brand new arena to play in. That is that. Have a look at it. We've got some shiny new heroes and things as well, but we will come on to those new heroes that you will fight in Curse of Naxxramas in just a moment. So new arena is one thing. Turning off the overlay would not be the smartest thing to do. So let's keep on jumping through. So in Curse of Naxxramas, what you are going to do is really make sure that you are going through effectively 5 wings of the dungeon. So if you've played Naxxramas in World of Warcraft, it's a dungeon, it's a big raid you'd go through. In Hearthstone you'll basically have 5 wings and a challenge in each wing. In each wing you'll be able to gain some new cards for your collection, and at the end of each wing there's a big boss that you can fight against, and if you beat them then you will grab a legendary card. So I believe there are 5 legendaries up for grabs. You can also get unique class cards and unique cards as well as you fight along the way, so there is some great stuff to be done there. Straight into the nitty gritty of Curse of Naxxramas, Blizzard have announced that the first wing is free, and then perhaps unsurprisingly the others are going to be unlocked with a purchase. So we're taking it that that's going to be gold. We don't know exactly how much in-game gold that's going to be, or how much the cash amount is going to be at this point in time, but it's going to be in the summer, so I'm sure we will find out very, very soon. Summer 2014 for this releasing. So, taking the form of a raid format in dungeons, you fight your way through 5 wings, 5 epic bosses at the end, and if you've played WoW you'll know them, but if not, we've got an example to show you later. I think it's sounding a little bit like some challenges, plus sort of maybe bits of the tutorial, plus some new cards and things to go along with, but there are some other things that make it a little bit more unique as well. So let's actually jump into some of the new cards, what everyone is really waiting for. So here's a new card, Undertaker, from Curse of Naxxramas. 1 mana, a 1 attack and 2 health cards, so very much an early game drop, but whenever you summon a minion with Death Rattle, gain 1/1. So we've seen this mechanic like with Questing Adventurer, cards that allow you to get a bit more buffed up, the more cards you're playing, for example in the case of Questing Adventurer. Other things like Frothing Berserker, when minions take damage, so if there's a single event of some description then the minion gets more powerful. Now one thing that's become apparent with the 5 or so cards that we've seen from Curse of Naxxramas so far is that Death Rattle is a very key mechanic. You will see that come up in another couple of cards. We've only seen 5, maybe there'll be some more over the weekend, who knows. But that actually really makes a bunch of sense. The Naxxramas sort of cards coming out have got a lot of Death Rattles in, so this Undertaker could be quite interesting. And don't forget, of course, all of the Undertaker sort of, you know, minions out there that Undertaker can actually benefit from. Think of your favourite Death Rattles are things like your Leper Gnomes, your Loot Hoarders, and similar, anything that is dying and getting some kind of effect. A lot of those are also pretty cheap in terms of mana cost. They'll come out in the early game, so if you get an Undertaker down with your Leper Gnome or something like your Loot Hoarder, or even some of the bigger cards that we'll see later in the game, then that can actually be very interesting. We'll have to see how that works out. But Death Rattle, very much a theme of this expansion. Welcome Thursday, Ted Miller and Vincent Sarius. It's great to see you here. So Undertaker, where could that be used? There could be some interesting rush uses for it, given how much you see loot hoarders and leper gnomes show up in a whole variety of sort of very aggressive decks. There are some more sort of mid to late game cards as well that may sit very, very well with Undertaker, so we'll maybe come back to that in a little bit. But Undertaker, ladies and gentlemen, that is our first card. Second card, then Ruby and Egg. So this is one of the teasers that you may have seen at Play Hearthstone drop on their Twitter over the last couple of days. Again, there's that Death Rattle there, 2 mana, 0 attack. You're not going to be doing anything with this but 2 health, so it's not going to stick around very long. But if it is killed, then a 4/4 Nerubian is going to spring up from nowhere. So if you drop one of these in turn 2, and your opponent actually decides to pick it off, then you have a turn 3, 4 attack, and 4 health minion, which is going to be pretty painful. So instantly, when you start thinking of combos, how would you play this in a deck? Is it indeed going to be a playable card? We haven't actually had it confirmed that these are going to be some of the cards that you can have for standard constructed, effectively like an expansion. So who knows whether we'll get these for our ladder decks or whether they'll be just something that you can play in this adventure mode. That is a question that hopefully we can ask and get some clarification on. But Nerubian Egg, if you were going to put that in one of your constructed decks, anything that will let you do some damage to your own minions, I can see this going very well perhaps with Wild Pyromancer, maybe Priest decks with a Smite, or anything that can just kill it on turn 2, or if you use it to trade. For example, it's got 0 attack, which of course means it can't attack, but if you can get it set up with a taunt or something like that, make it a tank, any way that you can make this die really quickly to get that 4/4 Nerubian out really, really quickly in terms of ramping, really reducing the time that you will need to get a very, very powerful minion on the deck. So there is your Nerubian Egg, could be quite interesting. And again, Death Rattle, if we just go back to our Undertaker there, you can see what's going on with these Death Rattles. If I drop an Undertaker turn 1, and then in Nerubian Egg turn 2, I've got a 2/2 Undertaker, sorry, a 2/3 Undertaker even if I could count, and then my Nerubian Egg maybe is going to be popping out the turn after that. And a big hello to the chat, it's great to see some new faces here. Let's jump to card 3, Dancing Swords. Dancing Swords indeed. So turn 3, you can see us sort of going through sort of the mana curve here. Turn 3, if I've gone turn 1 with an Undertaker and turn 2 with my little Eggman, turn 3 Dancing Swords, 4 attack, 4 health for 3 mana, that is very, very, very strong. Generally, you take a look at things and think, right, okay, how much mana is this minion going to cost me to play, or is this card going to cost me to play? And then really, what are the sort of plus sides of that card and what are the negatives? So this has got really strong, on average, higher than average attack and health for that mana level. However, it does have the downside of the Death Rattle of giving your opponent a card as soon as this minion goes to the great minion hole in the sky. So that is Dancing Swords. Again, if you've come through turn 1 in terms of the Undertaker and you've gained 1/1, perhaps by playing your turn 2 Nerubian Egg, then by the time you're coming out to turn 3 with Dancing Swords, you've got 2 Death Rattle cards on the table and your initial Undertaker is buffed up very, very nice. So there we go, Dancing Swords, that is our 3rd card. 4th card, do you know what, I've been slightly slow on the uptake here, but it's really, really cool to see that they've actually given us 4 cards in terms of mana ascending order. Isn't that neat? And I think there is actually even 1 card that I've actually missed, but I will try and grab that again in a second. So card number 4 is Baron Rivendare. So if you have played, I'm trying to remember the World of Warcraft instance, is it Scholomance in the Eastern Plaguelands? But Baron Rivendare, as far as I can remember, is or is it Strat Baron? There we go, found it. So Baron Rivendare, your minions trigger their Death Rattles twice, and that is turn 4. That is okay for 1 attack and 7 health. You're not going to be doing any massive attack with Baron Rivendare, but he's going to stay alive for a while with that health, and while he stays alive, triggering Death Rattles twice, that is a really, really, really potentially painful ability. Again, let's go back to those leper gnomes that will do 4 damage instead of 2 to the enemy hero, for example. Let's go back to those loot hoarders who will actually let you draw 2 cards instead of 1. these cards are looking really, really aggressive in the early game, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them pop up in some decks that love slamming into people's faces in the early game. Again, with death rattles, maybe hunters, maybe shamans, things that will give some buffs as well to these cards could be very, very good. Perhaps even in aggressive paladin decks these could come up, so it'll be really, really interesting to see where Baron Rivendare comes up as well. So again, sort of these cards at the moment, we don't know the context in which they're going to be played, but at the moment some of them are looking pretty powerful. And our final card that somehow I've managed to lose, but I will just try and grab it. Ignore the stream failure here. There we go. The Shade of Naxxramas. That's another 3 mana card for us. So that has actually got 2 attack and 2 health. So again, if we thought that our dancing swords, for example, were slightly overpowered or had higher power in terms of attack and health for the mana level that they're at, then Shade of Naxxramas maybe feels a little sort of underpowered. For example, you can get a lot of 2 mana minions that have 3 attack and 2 health. However, again, it thrives off of that ability. So you can see, for starters, Shade of Naxxramas has got stealth. It is not going to be able to be targeted by your opponent's spells or anything else bar a direct attack from a minion. So it can't be attacked by heroes in terms of anything like that. It's going to have to be attacked with a direct minion attack, or the other thing that can actually take it out is, of course, AoE. And by AoE, I'm abbreviating area of effect. I'm talking about spells that do not directly target any one minion. Stealth prevents direct targeting. So if I was a priest, I couldn't smite, or if I was a mage, I couldn't blizzard or anything like that. However, if I was going to use something like a priest's Holy Nova, one that on the card text states does 2 damage to all minions, then Shade of Naxxramas does get hit by that. It only prevents direct targeting, not anything else. So again, an interesting looking card. Where could you use a Shade of Naxxramas if we actually get access to it in constructed decks? Well, there's a bunch of things we could do. If you can hide this away, do remember perhaps in Warlock decks, for example, you've got also the Swordsmith and other cards that every turn that the card stays alive, you've got the Young Priestess. For every turn that stays alive, it buffs a minion for 1 health. The Swordsmith, for every turn that stays alive, it can buff a random minion for 1 attack. Maybe if you're jumping some of these in with a Shade of Naxxramas, that could be really, really interesting stuff. So again, be really, really good to see, A, if we get access to that in constructed decks, and B, if, you know, what kind of combos that people will come up with as a spot analysis. Some interesting looking cards. So that is, for the time being, the 5 cards I believe that Blizzard have released just a few hours ago in the Curse of Naxxramas expansion. So if we go back to Curse of Naxxramas, all of these new cards, I forgot to mention there are 30 cards, 30 brand new cards that are going to be coming. That was confirmed as well. And there will be at least 1 class-specific card for each class, or so Blizzard say, plus neutral minions as well, of course. The neutral minions we just had a look at. So there are going to be class-specific cards as well. There will be some kind of shiny new toy for each of your favourite classes. So whatever class you are going to be playing, there should be something there for you as well. Now, when you've been fighting through one of the 5 wings of Curse of Naxxramas, you are going to come to a boss at the end of it. And when you get to the boss at the end of it, we have the example here of Hagen the Unclean. Now, I actually stopped World of Warcraft raiding just about, you know, when it came to Nax. I did a few raids in Nax. I remember Hagen. I remember Hagen because my computer at the time was absolutely terrible, and in a, I believe it was a 25-man raid, Hagen the Unclean is known for the safety dance. Now, the reason for the safety dance is that effectively his eruption ability, he goes and stands on a plinth in the middle of the boss fight, and then what he does is actually make fire come from the floor, and when that fire comes from the floor, it comes from tile after tile at a time. So effectively what the entire raid has to do is move as one, running between tile to tile, and effectively obeying the first rule of World of Warcraft raiding, which is don't stand in the red stuff or don't stand in fire. Rule number 1, also, fire hurts you. Amazing how many World of Warcraft raiders throughout the years, and it has been a lot of years now that WoW has been out, really didn't actually get a hang of that one. But hands up, I really struggled with my PC at the time. All of the particle effects going off, I could turn everything down to low. But digression aside, Hygen the Unclean you will know for Eruption. If you don't know him for Eruption, Google Hygen Safety Dance and just watch the boss fight in action. Really, really funny. So I've got Hygen here. You can see his brand new card there, Mind Apocalypse. Both players draw 2 cards and gain a mana crystal. That's some crazy acceleration. Who knows, actually, I'm guessing that that's a boss-specific card that we're not actually going to see ourselves being able to play, and very much like the way that in the Hearthstone tutorial you see all of those different bosses having all sorts of different crazy abilities. And then Eruption, the hero power, 2 damage to the leftmost enemy minion. And actually, if you take a look at that hero power, you see the introduction of a new mechanic. It was mentioned, this is from a bit of a scraping from Twitter and other things earlier, that there are going to be new features and mechanics such as damaging a side of the board. So the leftmost enemy minion is pretty specific. No real control there unless you can perhaps use your other abilities to pick off minions, but we've only seen 5 cards. There are another 25 to go. Maybe we will get cards that will let us damage the leftmost minion, the rightmost minion, the centre minion, and there are ways, of course, that if those mechanics do make their way into cards that we can actually play, and they're not just boss abilities, for example, you might actually be able to make some use of them. At the moment, of course, you may not know it, but things like Flame Tongue Totem and similar things like that, which buff minions either side. You may go for things like Sunfury Protector, your Defenders of Argus, anything that you need to position correctly in an equal way. You can sort of try, I guess, to do damage to your opponent's minions so that you can perhaps engineer a minion to be on the left or right side of the table. Sounds a bit situational, but who knows, we'll just have to see what happens there. But there we go, that is an example of Hygen. So he is a big shiny new boss in terms of Nax. And while we are on Hygen, we should probably talk about class challenges. So there are going to be 9 unique class challenges coming within Curse of Naxxramas. So as well as being able to fight your way through those 5 wings, earn yourself 5 legendary cards at the end of each, unique cards for each class, and then 30 cards in general that will be added sort of expansion cards by the sounds of things in terms of a deck. So you've got that fun sort of PvE adventure, and then you can have class challenges too. So what these will do is that effectively it's kind of like, think of it as a sort of an extended quest. So you might have to play an encounter, as far as the guys on the stream earlier said, with a specific kind of twist. So it might be using a pre-made deck that doesn't have any particular kinds of cards. It might encourage you not to play a particular amount of cards. So it's effectively trying to challenge heroes and do runs with constraints. There are hero by hero ones, so for each class challenge you can test your mettle with a particular hero in a particular situation, and if you overcome those challenges then you get new class specific cards to add to your collection of cards, which is absolutely fantastic. Always good to have new cards, and in many ways this is kind of almost Hearthstone's first mini expansion. If all of these cards are only playable, of course, against the AI, then that will make things a little bit different, but some of these seem quite powerful, so that's why I'm wondering as to whether they're actually going to make it into Constructed or not. But after this episode I will go and hunt and see what we can actually find out, so that'll be good to find too. Other bits and bobs that came out of this morning, the final one was that Hearthstone on iPad is actually going to be coming to the US, or perhaps globally, perhaps in the next 1 to 2 weeks. Of course, you'd have to take that game's development with a little bit of a pinch of salt. If there was a game-breaking bug in the iPad version that's out in Australia, New Zealand and Canada at the moment, then there's a chance that could be pushed back. But given that the iPad version has been out for quite a while, I was actually really lucky to see the iPad version a few weeks back. It's looking really, really great, and I've not heard any massive bugs online from anyone so far in terms of Twitter or anything like that who are actually playing it out in the live environment. So fingers crossed that Hearthstone on iPad will be with us around the rest of the world, but in the US and in the EU, of course, as well as everywhere else, very, very soon. As each wing is released as a final thing, the cards available in each wing will also show up in your arena picks, even if you've not earned them for your personal collection yet. So that is an interesting little point as well from the Blizzard blog as we come back to Curse of Naxxramas. The Arachnid Quarter is the free wing, and then if you want to go into any other of the wings, it will be in-game gold, of course, or real money. So it's not going to be a pay-to-win scenario, but if you're not going to earn the in-game gold, of course, there will be some small cost attached to buying those wings. So you can start playing with those cards in Arena, even if you've not unlocked the wing. So if you've only played one wing, then you can get all of those cards in Arena with that wing. So again, that's kind of a bit of an incentive from Blizzard for you to work towards unlocking all of those wings, because you'll get some additional cards in your draft. And going back to some of those cards, if you're playing in Arena and get those in a draft as a neutral minion, Some of those are quite crazy indeed. So there we have it. That is our lightning quick, at this point in time, review of all of Curse of Naxxramas, all of the announcements. Some final things: if you want to go and see some more info along with the official blog, you can see Blizzard's official blog on the Battle.net blog or on the Hearthstone page, so you can jump in there on battle.net/Hearthstone, whether it be US Battle.net, EU Battle.net, you will be able to spot those there and see a whole bunch more details. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. It's been great to have you. This has been a little earlier than our usual episode, but there's just been a bunch of news, so it's great to share. Where can you find more stuff? We usually do this 4 to 5 nights a week, or attempt to. YouTube is youtube.com/Falcraftcasts. There's a whole bunch of other games there. We do a lot of Hearthstone, try and do some League of Legends and similar, and focus around new to intermediate player content. How do you get into the game, explaining basic tactics and running through decks and similar. So please go and check it out. If you like it, if you don't like it, just let us know. Love a bit of constructive criticism as long as we can make better content for you. If you've seen this on YouTube, we're on Twitch, twitch.tv/Falcraftcast, and we tend to go live 7:30 to 8 PM GMT Monday through Thursday. Hearthstone content 4 nights a week. Friday, if we do a 5th night, will generally be a different game or something a little bit fun instead. So you can, of course, grab accounts for any of these services completely free. On Twitch you can follow us, and that will get you an email when we actually go live, so you can get that little update as well. So really, really easy to do. Twitter.com/Falcraftcasts. If we're not streaming, we're going to be on Twitter someplace or another. Do say hello, it'd be great to hear from you. And last but not least, the website is falcraft.org. We have all of the videos stored there, some accompanying blog articles, and also some things that perhaps don't live quite so well in a video environment. So things like deck lists, some useful links for new players to intermediate players, a little bit more written context around some of the articles and strategies that we try to go through. And that is pretty much us for now. We will be back on later to do a bit of streaming of some other fun games. It will probably not be voice commentated, but please, please, please do check out our other content. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you have come from, and above all, if you can comment, let us know what you did like and let us know what you did not like, then as the end screen says, we would really, really appreciate it.